Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'll be talking about Last Breath. This movie is currently playing in theaters and is based on a true story. This movie follows a group of deep sea divers as they're on a work site where one gets trapped hundreds of feet underwater and the crew has to figure out a way to save him. Going into this, I had seen a few trailers, and the trailer setup for this definitely made this movie look very, very exciting. I mean, this is one of those, if you are not good with like close spaces or being underwater or things like that, this definitely makes for a tense watch. And I've grown up watching movies such as like The Perfect Storm and some other like major like water-based kind of thrillers, if you say, but this is a little bit different because this is following a true story. Going into this one, I probably should have expected that this was a true story. I did not know about this at all, so kind of watching this unfold of what happens was pretty fascinating watch. So because this is a true story, I'm just going to go into this movie for what it is. So if this is something you're curious about seeing, I would definitely pause, go watch this movie, and then come back and listen through the rest of the review. So this is a pretty short runtime. This is about an hour-and-a-half movie, and it definitely hits the beats pretty quickly because this is a movie where it's man versus nature, but it's also not really man versus man, but they're trying to figure out different ways to solve this particular problem. So we're primarily with three people in this movie: Woody Harrelson, Simu Liu, and Finn Cole. They play the three crew members that are on a work site where they're going hundreds of feet underwater to make various like pipe repairs that are associated with a nearby town. During this work site, there is a major weather going on. So the ship, which was very fascinating, primarily being ran by a computer at this point. So they're trying to autopilot this machine to keep it over the work site area. But this is during a big storm. So of course, something weird happens. All the computers go offline and the boat starts to be pushed away. Now these divers are attached with tubes, allowing them to breathe, and so of course as this weather is pushing everything away, they have to figure out how to stay safe and to get back onto the boat. In which case one of the divers' tubes gets caught and breaks and he's stranded underwater. So this primarily follows this diver. His name is Chris, who is engaged but essentially he loves what he does, and this whole premise is set up of like, hey, I'm gonna go on this work site, I'll be back soon, don't worry, I'll be fine. And of course he's the one where this accident happens. Another fascinating thing is like, as they know this is going on and they know that his line is going to break, he has to enable his backup oxygen reserve, which only lasts for 8 minutes. And when that time came on, that's when this movie really gets tense, because how are they going to get back and get him, you know, safe in only 8 minutes? They realize like this time is going to run out quick because this weather is pushing the boat further and further away as they're trying to figure out what to do. They can't enable things, so they're trying to run this manually. You also have one of the crew members who is more of like an IT person that's trying to figure out like, how can we fix this from the technological standpoint to bypass these things. You have other crew members that are running like these underwater drones that are like, can we utilize these to save him? And then you have Woody Harrelson and Simu Liu that are basically just on standby to go back into the water once they get closer to Chris and save him. So it's a lot of things going on in a very tight runtime. But when this movie gets really, really intense, it's once Chris's oxygen level depletes, because that's where this story takes place, is the fact that he is hundreds of feet underwater in his suit with no oxygen for over half an hour. He was without oxygen for 29 minutes. And so we're watching as he is just basically down there underwater. All these other people are trying to, you know, go through different measurements to get him out of the water. And it shows like where Chris was smart as well. The drone goes down there to try to save him, but they can't because he's latched himself on. A smart move, because he realizes like, I'm about to go unconscious, and if this storm picks up, the tidal waves are essentially like underwater, like that pressure is just going to push me off of this thing that I'm on top of. So very smart on his part. But now we're watching as everyone else is trying to like figure out ways around this thing. And I will say like a lot of this feels a bit rushed, because the main three people that we're following, we're not really getting a lot of time with their relationship and their bonding. Simu Liu is such a fascinating character, and he's like an actor I love so much, especially from like Shang-Chi, but he's this very like, I keep to myself, like work is work, we don't talk about personal stuff, I just kind of lock in and I don't want to say anything. So he's very, very quiet in this, but he's very, very focused. He knows like what's going on, he's quick to act, and he says like, look, we're going to save you, like don't worry, you need to do X, Y, and Z, we'll be back to get you. And so as we're watching all these events unfold, you know, the manner that it goes is pretty quick, and it does kind of lose that tension that you're feeling because we're not so much underwater the entire time. The moments that we're underwater, it's really once Chris has passed out and we're just trying to figure out like how are they going to get him out of the water. But at the end of the day, they do get him out. They're able to correct a lot of these problems. Now, I haven't looked into the actual story, so I don't know what was done for dramatic purposes versus what actually happened, but they were able to bring him back up into the ship where they were Woody Harrelson's character, who's basically like a manager of these divers. He's the one that's kind of monitoring them, feeding them their lines, making sure that they're safe. He's the one that's on the intercom with them. He's kind of like the point of contact between the divers and the rest of the crew. But he basically does CPR to get Chris breathing again, and after some time, Chris is like back to normal. And that's where this miraculous event takes place in the story, is that at the end of it, it states like, you know, he was underwater without oxygen for 29 minutes and no one really knows like how he survived this. He survived without any physical or mental damage of long term. He was able to get back with his fiance and get married and even go back to work a few weeks later, which was wild. It shows like how much he loves doing this, and he kind of states his passion for it at the beginning of that, you know, doing this job while it's so scary and dangerous. You know, being that level underwater and when you get to see things, it's just like an incredible experience and something that he loves. So it's just one of these movies where it pulls at the heartstrings. You get these feel-good moments. I just wish they could have gone a little bit more in depth on things. I mean, it is a tight run time, and I think some moments probably play out longer than they should, because so much of this is that these divers have to go in this compression stage and decompression stage for so long, and we spend quite a bit of time in those moments where they're just there together, not really doing much, waiting to go into the water, or the reverse of it is once they've rescued Chris, it's waiting till they can go back on land. So all in all, it's a good watch. I just wish they could have done a little bit more with the runtime, maybe shortened some of the moments that we get and added more depth into these people and get to know them more and get to learn about their stories, because we only get so much of the post-credit experiences of seeing like what these people really look like and the events that actually happen, and like all the bullet point notes that the filmmakers wanted to make. So, Last Breath, while it is a fairly like, you know, entertaining watch for like a real life story, like thriller style movie, this does have its downfalls. We don't get as much time with the characters. Most of them are fairly quiet. If you've seen the trailer, you're hitting all the bullet points there, because this movie goes like point by point, exactly what you see in the trailer. And it's a real life story, so there's only so much they'll dramatize to keep you entertained while this is focused around a real life event. And while it is fascinating, I just wish we got a little bit more of the story of these people and kind of how it affected them as a relationship going into this this work task that they went through and even post it. If you saw Last Breath, what did you think? Let me know in the comments. Are you a fan of these style movies, these like based on like real life events, or just anything like that? Like, would love to know. If you have any favorites, let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel this week. I've had a lot of fun reviewing movies. I'll be back again next week with more reviews. Be sure to like and subscribe. It helps out so much. Hope everyone has a great weekend. We'll see you soon.